Hello everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a review of the first 3 episodes of The Boys Season 3. Now there will be spoilers for all of these episodes as well as potential spoilers for the previous 2 seasons, so just beware when going into this overall video. Now Season 3 of The Boys debuted on Amazon Friday the 3rd of June 2022 and will consist overall of 8 episodes. Now just to previously recap on Season 2, we saw the final confrontation with Stormfront, which saw the young Ryan kill both her and inadvertently his mother when trying to protect her. We saw that Maeve had prevented Homelander from taking Ryan by blackmailing him into releasing the footage of Homelander killing all of the civilians on the airplane. All of the boys had their criminal charges released and were allowed to go back towards their normal lives. We saw that Starlight had returned back to the Seven and is kind of acting as an undercover mole, keeping her eyes on the Vought International group. We saw that Huey is now working under Victoria Newman's administration, who we know is a supe, having seen her assassinate loads of people within the recent Congress meeting. Now I've got to say, in terms of these opening 3 episodes, I really enjoyed them. I found plenty of interesting and engrossing elements. There are plenty of interesting character dynamics, and most of the characters have very involving storylines that I think can be maintained throughout the rest of the season. We certainly had a couple of standout elements in the opening episode, and it was very surprising to see a Charlize Theron in very much of a propagandic movie piece titled The Dawn of the Seven, where we saw the Seven going up against Stormfront, who this time was being acted by Charlize Theron, and it's always great to see Charlize Theron, who always looks perfect in everything she appears in. And this was following the dynamic of the Vought and the Seven trying to repair their image that was damaged by the antics of Stormfront, and we see Homelander in opening scenes addressing his relationship with Stormfront and very much trying to convince the public that he fell in love by mistake. We then had a very typically risk and violent sequence involving the boys taking down a supe known as the Termite, and it had very much of the X-rated violence that you'd expect to see from this show, so depending on your taste you may indeed enjoy or be very much grossed out by this sequence that we see here. For me personally, I was very much grossed out by this, but that's what you come to expect when watching this show. And later on we see that the boys are working alongside the government in tracking down other supes, and we see in the beginning that Billy has very much straightened himself out and he's paying regular visits, keeping an eye on Ryan, and they seem to have a good relationship in the opening parts of the episode. We then see Stan Edgar trying to sell the compound fee to the government, as the formula currently is potent for 24 hours, and this is again Vought trying to instill super soldiers working alongside the military. We later on see Starlight being offered the role of co-captain alongside Homelander within the Seven. This is due to her getting higher ratings rather than Homelander, of course following his association with Stormfront. And at first she seems very uncomfortable with this association. She wants Homelander to remain the leader, but over the course, certainly over the first 2 episodes, she seems more comfortable in this association, and she starts to really exhibit her more dominant role in terms of how the boys are presented in terms of the media. And then we later on see Homelander visiting a very disfigured Stormfront in hospital, and we learn later on throughout the episodes that she's actually killed herself. This very much continues the fraction that we see throughout the entire 3 episodes inside of Homelander, not only having to cope with losing Stormfront, but also not being able to see his son Ryan. And that narrative continued its way through one of the best scenes throughout these entire 3 episodes, and that's when we see Homelander coming together with Billy. So all of the history and antagonism between the two will always generate lots of tension, and it's brilliantly played by both actors, Carl Urban and Anthony Starr. We later on see Maeve visiting Billy, bringing him to the attention of Soldier Boy, who was a supe way back in the 80s, and Maeve believes that Soldier Boy is the key to taking down Homelander, which she makes reference to the fact that Soldier Boy was part of a superhero group known as Payback, who were basically the Seven before the Seven, and she discusses ways of locating him and tracking him down. And this of course brings the revelation that she hands down samples of the compound fee over to Billy, and then we see later on that he takes them. This is primarily in the 2nd episode, as per the trailers and promotion for the series, where we see Billy for the first time with superpowers as he tracks down Gunpowder, who was part of the Payback group. We learn that Gunpowder was physically abused by Soldier Boy, and after threatening to expose his identity all over the internet, Gunpowder tracks down Billy and tries to take him out, and that's when we see Billy having taken a compound fee, using his powers and taking out Gunpowder in very brutal fashion. And this will be one of the interesting dynamics of the series, as we see Billy struggling to keep in complete control of the newfound powers. And this is very good, and I hope that they maintain this narrative all throughout this series, because it's very much a reverse play on the whole story of the fact that supes are too dangerous, and that was what's motivating Billy and the boys in the first place, and that the supes were getting out of control. So now very much the shoe is on the other foot with Billy having powers. So it will be interesting to see if any of the other boys have to take the compound V later on throughout the season, and how will they cope with potentially having the superpowers as well. So I hope they keep this narrative throughout the rest of the series. Another key scene was seeing Homelander beginning to lose his grip right in front of the cameras, ranting and raving about how he was a hero who's always been taken advantage of, and he's reached this breaking point, and now he's going to live his life the way that he sees fit. So initially we think this will cause a huge downturn in his popularity, but it actually is the opposite. It actually causes an increase in his ratings. And this is very much, I believe, a commentary on how society views more of the anti-hero, in that once the hero identity and inspirational figure is washed away, audiences for some reason feel more connected to that personality because they feel it's more relatable. Now, we had more interesting developments when we learned of the secret operation of Payback way back in 1984. This involves a scene when the boys go to visit Grace Mallory after what Billy learned through interrogating Gunpowder. And we get a great flashback scene to the operation, which was involving the distribution of cocaine. And it was great to see a younger Grace alongside also a younger Stan Edgar as well. And where we had further discussions about implementing supes within the military, we see the younger version of Payback very much messing around with the other troops. But later on, this messing around cost them as their location is discovered, and then we get quite a brutal and spectacular sequence where we see all of the troops and the Payback getting taken out and under fire from the Russian troops. We get some vivid and very brutal scenes of soldiers getting taken out, and we also see very much the origin of Black Noir, where we see his face completely disfigured, and that's why he reaches for his helmet. So this again draws connections to what we saw within the character in the first 2 seasons. When reflecting on this flashback, Grace outlines that she lost over 116 men that day, and that's when she realised the true secrets and agendas within Falter International, and this is what motivated her overall desire to try and take them down. We also learn that Soldier Boy is potentially alive after being presumed dead, where Grace confirms that he was actually taken away by the Russian helicopters. So this will now lead to the boys going over to Russia to try and locate Soldier Boy. And then we see very much of a heartbreaking breakup between Billy and Ryan. Billy still angry at Grace for her overall story and takes it out on Ryan, who initially seems like he will outbreak with his powers, but he eventually holds back. So how will that play later on throughout the season? We will wait and see. We also had the earlier revelation where we see that Huey discovers Newman's powers as a supe, and another gruesome sequence where when a friend catches up with Victoria, talking about their times as children when they were experimented on by the Falter International, and he threatens to expose the group, but then Newman takes him out by making his body explode. We also learn that both Victoria and Stan Edgar have adopted a child, so I'm sure we'll delve into further secrets regarding the children experimentation within Falter International. And I also liked the dynamic going on with Starlight. We see earlier on, as I mentioned before, that she's more comfortable with the role as co-captain, but in a very intense scene with Homelander, she threatens to use the footage with him killing the civilians with the airplane, but we see the shift far more in Homelander. He's not quite as caring in terms of being beloved. He states that it's always better to be loved than to be feared, but if need be, she can expose the footage, and if necessary he will go around and destroy the whole world. This is again a very interesting change in both Homelander's personality and Stormfront as well, because we see at the very end of the 3rd episode she's very much caught in the grasp of Homelander when in front of the cameras he proclaims that both him and Starlight are in a relationship. So after she tells Huey, he maintains to Starlight that she has to stay within the 7 until they find the weapon that can take down Homelander. So this story will build up a lot of tension as we see throughout the rest of the episodes. Now, there were a couple of story arcs that I didn't quite find as interesting in terms of Frenchie's story when he goes back to protect the woman that he was involved in a relationship way back in season 1. And also A-Train's story arc where we see him struggling to feel as important after the seemingly loss of his speed. These elements, they may pay fruition later on throughout the season, but so far I just didn't quite find them as interesting. So I suppose after all these 3 episodes, we're now awaiting the 4th episode, where I believe we will see the first appearance of Soldier Boy, and hopefully they can make him a very key and integral character to this overall story arc that we're seeing throughout the 3rd season. But minus a few uninteresting story arcs aside, I believe this was a very good start to the series. Very involving, very action-packed and violent as what we expect, but lots of interesting character dynamics and subplots to keep me very invested and interested throughout the rest of the season. So a very good start within its first 3 episodes so far. So there's my overall thoughts and feelings and review of the first 3 episodes of The Boys Season 3. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as usual, with all of my television reviews, I will continue to do any reviews of any particular standout episodes, plus obviously a review of both the finale and the overall season itself. So look out for that commentary within the channel. And if you have any other TV shows or movies that you'd like to see me review also for the channel, then let me know and I'll see if I can provide further coverage on that content for you as well. Please also hit and like those subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.